Yeah, I actually play a lot more of the campaign in the Halo games than
Oh yeah,
the
I played the
multiplayer.
campaign once and then that was it. I was done with it.
But yeah, almost all of my online FPS has been in Team Fortress 2, and it's one of the thing that I really like about Team Fortress 2 is that you can like it even if it's kind of like an FPS for people who don't play FPS really.
That's what I've heard. You know tried to get me to play that game? Is Bongo Bill is always telling me to get on there. Like
Yeah,
he'll send me instant messages out of the blue every 4 or 5 months. Why don't you play Team Fortress? This is what I imagine he sounds like.
yeah. The thing about Team Fortress 2 is that there are 9 classes, and all of them play so differently from one another that it's like one of them is kind of designed for people who grew up with Quake, and there's one that's kind of for people who are huge fans of Unreal Tournament, and there's a few others that are just it almost doesn't even matter how well you can aim.
See, that would be me. Like, what would that be? Like the medic?
Medic is one. Medic is more about managing line of sight and
Yes. See,
knowing
that's where I would
when to.
gravitate, is to medic, because every time I've played an MMO, like every MMO I've ever played, except for World of Warcraft, it's like I've gone immediately to the healer type.
Yeah, the
I
medic.
like the support classes.
Oh, jeez. Just. Oh wait, he just transformed to your pot. Well,
Yeah, I hate those guys.
at least it, at least it wasn't the chiropractic jar, because losing one of those would be losing one of those is just kind of devastating.
Well, it would be devastating if I actually knew what they did, but I don't think I did at this point.
But yeah, the medic in Team Fortress 2 is more like you want to manage line of sight. You want to know when you're in trouble, so you can know when to retreat, or know when to deploy your Uber charge to make yourself or your to make your patient invincible.
Yeah. Well, when I play cooperative games like that, and one of the reasons I think I would like the medic is I either want to play a support role like that, which is kind of, I don't want to say passive, but like less strenuous than playing a full-on melee role or something, or I want to play a class that is almost totally self-sufficient. It's like in Warcraft, I played a warlock for like 70 levels, because you almost don't need a team for a warlock. You can do everything. It's like self-contained.
Yeah, I think probably the most self-contained class in Team Fortress 2 might be the Heavy.
The heavy.
Yeah,
Now,
that's
see,
another.
I don't know anything about Team Fortress 2, but I love the Heavy because he's hilarious.
Yeah, the Heavy actually you don't really need fine aiming skills most of the time, unless a scout just gets up in your face, which doesn't happen that often. Because you just have this minigun that's kind of aiming a cone of death at your enemies, and you just have to be vaguely pointing in the right direction. And one of the items that the Heavy gets lets him heal himself.
Oh, okay. So there's like
So-
item-based play too. Is it like you
Yeah, it's
level up and get better items and things?
well, it's not better items so much as it is. I don't know the word that I often hear used is side grades.
Side grades. Okay, that makes sense.
So it's like the Heavy's initial loadout is just his regular minigun, a shotgun, and his fists. And the fists in Team Fortress 2 are actually, or melee weapons in general in Team Fortress 2 are actually fairly powerful. Like, if you're in melee range, they're a thing that you might want to break out, depending on what your class is.
Well, isn't that kind of typical in shooter games though? Is for the melee weapon to be kind of, well, not overpowered, but still really good. Because I know the
I think-
sword in Halo is really good, and then you got
I
the
think
wench.
that's mostly a Halo thing, actually. In most PC-based FPSs, the melee is just something you use when you're desperate.
Well, I guess going back to the chainsaw in Doom, which kind of sucked.
But yeah, once but as you play the game, you just sort of randomly get a few other items that you can use. So like there's an alternate minigun that doesn't do as much damage but slows down enemies who are being hit by it. There's the replacement for the shotgun is the sandwich.
The sandwich.
I
Okay,
mean, it's
those jokes make sense now.
it's the most hilarious thing in game because when you use the sandwich, the heavy just stands stock still with the look of utmost glee on his face as he's eating this sandwich. And you usually eat it after a fight that's left you pretty badly injured. So you can have an arrow sticking out of your side and you're on fire.
And you're just chewing the sandwich.
Yeah,
now I'm going to have to go to Subway after we're done recording this.
And after he eats that's promoted.
Yeah, that's bad. I don't like that at all.
Oh, the thing about paralysis staffs in this game is monsters break out of them when and only when you hit them. So if you wanted to do some sort of kiting like that, or like what you were just doing, where you paralyze and then just pelt him with arrows.
Right.
What you want to do is you want to paralyze him and then take a few steps back so you have more range.
There is a time element, at least with the sleeping scroll, because they will wake up eventually if you stay in a room long enough.
Sleeping scroll, they will wake up, and when they wake up, they have double speed.
But it's paralysis staff they want. They're stuck there. Okay. No, that's
paralysis staff, and it's called.
Well, now here's a fun question. How sure are you that that's what happens in the Famicom version?
I don't think they changed the mechanics of the items between the two versions.
Let's hope not, because 18 videos from now, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, D.T. Easton says I can use a staff and he'll be stuck forever. Then 5 minutes later, I get killed. That will be awful. I don't know why I spent so much time chasing this little bastard down.
There's the paralysis staff, and there's also a staff called the Staff of Postpone.
Which
or at least it's called,
warps the guy to the
level exit. The exit and paralyzes him.
Because I've seen that a couple times, and because when you use it, you just see the monster fly away. So I keep thinking it's like a teleport monster staff.
Yeah.
Like a staff of teleport in NetHack, just kind of puts it to a random location, but I guess that's not the case.
Yeah, Shiren doesn't have that. But what you can do with that though is if you have a switching staff and you're up against a monster that you really don't want to fight, like I don't know, something's been promoted twice.
Right.
You can use postpone on it, and then when you go to the exit, just use switching staff. Just use a switching staff on it,
and then you just
go through the exit. That's a tactic that saved me a few times.
That is one major probably the biggest difference between Shiren and NetHack that I really had to adjust my playstyles, because in NetHack you can go back to the previous floor.
Mm-hmm.
And that is such a huge part of how I play that game, is because I'm always trying to keep the entire dungeon in my head at once. You're always preparing for something. You can always go back and do things and save them for later. Whereas in Shiren, you have to do everything on the floor while you're on that floor, because there is no coming back.
Yeah. It seems kind of it's something that varies a lot between roguelikes. There's a lot of roguelikes that let you go back, and there's also a lot of roguelikes that don't.
Do you have a preference?
It's hard to say, because it kind of really depends on the game. Some games make really good use of one mechanic or the other.
No, I definitely prefer being able to go back, because a lot of times you'll see something that you can't deal with yet, but you'll be able to deal with later, and I want to be able to come back and deal with it. It's like, oh, okay, there's say a sink in NetHack. If a sink generates on floor 1, well, there's lots of cool things you can do with a sink, but you're not going to be doing them at level 1.
Well, yeah, like I said, it sort of depends on the roguelike. Some roguelikes don't really have things like sinks where you want to come back to them.
That's true, and Shiren kind of doesn't. Shiren doesn't have things like that.
Yeah. I don't know. One roguelike I've been playing a fair bit of recently is it's called Brogue.
Brogue?
I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I have not.
Um, it's the game feels like it's trying to be the original Rogue, but improved.
Okay.
Which is a pretty admirable goal, I think, because the original Rogue, frankly, isn't that good.
I think I tried it and was like, yeah, this... It was a situation where I can see how this would have been good if I were around at the time.
Yeah, it just doesn't have a lot you can do.
Kind of like trying to go back and play the original Donkey Kong in a sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
This would be fun if it was 1983.
Yeah, one of the things that Rogue does is it lets you return to previous floors.
Okay.
But monsters will also chase you between the floors. So if you've got an ogre following you, and you take a staircase to try and get away from it, a couple of turns later you can expect the ogre to arrive on your floor.
Oh, see, now, yeah, that would mess with my head. Well, because in NetHack, they only follow you if they're literally on the next tile.
Yeah.
You descend.
And it really makes you kind of adjust how you play, because you can't just escape from anything by going into the next floor.
But that's one of NetHack's big identifiers then, is because every floor that you're not on kind of exists in this stasis. Like the things there don't move or change until you go back. I had a pet newt in one of my ascensions that I abandoned really early. And then during the ascension run, I just came across this newt, and his name was Newtly. I'm like, oh, I remember you from 37 levels ago. Yeah.
Yeah, what NetHack does is it just keeps it in the sort of stasis, and then when you get back, it just notes how many turns you've been gone and does a few things based on that.
Yeah, like pet loyalty and things.
Pet loyalty, dead monster rotting, that sort of thing.
Which is for the best, because then otherwise every trip back to the dungeon would just have monster corpses every step.
Yeah. Although, yeah. Forgot what I was going to say, really.
Well, it's time to go visit the pot salesman again. It's good that we have other things to talk about, because it was just me replaying the whole forest level again. And I just, every time I walk into this guy's house, I just hate him more and more. It's just ridiculous what this guy's all about. At least this time he didn't break my frickin' pot.
I can't remember if he ever does. I don't think he does.
Oh, no, he does. He just grabs a pot out of your inventory and smashes it.
Oh,
remember, because I had, like, rice balls and stuff in my pot. I'm like, what the hell, homie? You just gonna break my stuff?
Yeah, I can't remember. Does it at least let you pick your stuff up again?
No. No, it just disappears.
Okay, he only does that once, though.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I think there's like one or two more times you have to go in and he just throws a pot, and then it just kind of resolves.
Is that the trend in Shiren then? Is the first time you meet an NPC, they just screw you over hardcore, and then the second time you meet them, it's just hilarious, and the third time they do something useful for you?
You know, now when you put it like that, I think it actually is kind of like that. Have you done much with Shiren's little the guy who claims to be your brother yet?
I gave him money, and then he joined me and followed me around, but he was really weak.
And then he asks you for food.
I don't think he's asked me for anything else just yet.
He will. But yeah, he asks you for food, and he just kind of whines and is weak.
He's a charity case, essentially. Sort
of. But eventually he becomes the strongest ally you have.
Oh, well, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, let's see. There's him, there's the blinder, there's the masseuse who, I think he injures you the first time you get a massage from him.
He, like, breaks your back or something and leaves you with just a few hit points.
Yeah, and let's see here. There's this there's this restaurant thing where last time you went here, you had your satiation reduced to
They
10%.
poisoned me with their terrible food.